Welcome to this brief Bible dive with Beautiful Savior Lutheran Church in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and with me, Pastor Nick. We're in this series of brief Bible dives where we're summarizing books of the Bible so that you can get a quick understanding of their message and why they matter. And today we're talking about the writings of the prophet Habakkuk. What's the basic message of Habakkuk? Simply this: it is a faithful thing to ask God questions. It's okay to ask God questions. When people's lives get difficult, when times get tough, when things seem to fall apart all around us, of course we sit there and go, why? Why would this be happening? That's exactly what the prophet Habakkuk did. And we don't often hear about Habakkuk. Habakkuk lived just before the people were attacked by the Babylonians and taken into exile to Babylon. But in the book, Habakkuk simply kept asking, why? 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 Why was there violence all around him? Why had society gone mad? Why were innocent people getting killed by those who faced no responsibility for doing so? Kind of sounds like questions we ask today, right? God did answer Habakkuk the first time. God said that Habakkuk was right, that society had gone mad. It was just berserk. And so God said, well, okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to send an enemy army to wipe your country off the face of the map, and I'm going to do it with violence. Of course, Habakkuk did not like that answer. Who would like that answer? So we asked God if, is there a different way that you can maybe end my society's violent ways without that? To which God simply told Habakkuk that God had a greater plan than Habakkuk could ever understand. God told Habakkuk to have faith and courage and believe that God is still active behind the scenes. Actually, the famous line that we hear in Habakkuk is, "The righteous live by their faith." The righteous live by their faith. This is the same verse that affected the Apostle Paul. It's the same verse that affected the author of the book of Hebrews. It's the same verse that affected Martin Luther enough to begin the Lutheran Reformation. Habakkuk did not like God's answer. Who would? I'm going to wipe your nation off the face of the earth. Who would like that? It wasn't complete, though, enough for him. But Habakkuk took the advice. Good for him. He took the advice. And eventually, by living in faith, by trusting that God actually is behind the scenes, Habakkuk recognized the truth that God's ways are not our ways, and that our perception of things, they're not always clear. Habakkuk realized that we're all like that. We're all just catching a glimpse of history. Our perspectives are brief, and it can sometimes be difficult to know what's going on without us knowing it. However, it is important to trust that there is someone, not even something, but someone behind the scenes bringing things eventually to a good and just conclusion. Of course, when we're suffering, when our loved ones are dealing with terrible illnesses, when we've lost our jobs, when our lives feel like they're falling apart, that's kind of hard to accept. And it was kind of hard for Habakkuk to accept too. He saw friends suffer injustice. He saw friends wrongly killed. He saw his nation, although completely ungodly at the time, fall into the hands of a terrible enemy who was even more evil than his own nation. Habakkuk first went to God with his own answers for the problems around him, but God rejected those solutions. God had a bigger picture. God was not ignoring Habakkuk in any way, but God knew better. It wasn't easy for Habakkuk to accept the idea that we need to have faith in the midst of pain, but over time it did begin to sink in, and his own perspective began to change. God's ways are not our ways, and over time, with the gift of faith, we can begin to see that. One of the great challenges for us is that it's easy for faith, it's easy to look for faith when things are going difficult, but then when things are going well, faith in God can sometimes fall by the wayside. Even though we'll never have the whole picture, keeping faith at all times, not just the good, not just the bad, but all time, both bad and good. Well, that helps us to have a slightly larger picture of what God is doing. Either way, faith gives us strength in tough times because it helps us to see that God knows what's going on and that God isn't ignoring us. And it's exactly what God is prescribing for Habakkuk and through Habakkuk to us. It's that God can bring the best out of the worst situation. And through faith, we can see that God has a bigger picture than we might first imagine. Perhaps this is the best way to end. It's with Habakkuk's own words. And it's how a life of faith changes our view of the world. These are the words that actually conclude the book of Habakkuk. And he wrote them actually for a song. So here they go. Though the fig tree does not blossom. Not a great cheery way to start, right? But he's being realistic. Okay, let's start over. Though the fig tree does not blossom, and no fruit is on the vines. Though the produce of the olive fails, and the fields yield no food. Though the flock is cut off from the fold, and there is no herd for the stalls, yet, I will rejoice in the Lord. I will exult in the God of my salvation. God, the Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer and makes me tread upon the heights. So that's the story of the book of Habakkuk in a nutshell. To learn more about our congregation and how we're trying to teach people about these things, go to our website, bslcmi.org. We'd love for you to share this video, to like it, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, go out and love God and love your neighbors.